The East India Company, the rise, power, and collapse of the first corporate empire failed giants, full-length documentary script. When people talk about the most powerful companies in history, they often mention modern names, technology giants, global banks, energy conglomerates. But centuries before any of them existed, one company rewrote the rules of power forever. The East India Company. Founded in 1600, this was not just a business. It was an experiment that asked a dangerous question. How much power can a private company hold before it becomes something else entirely? At the beginning, the answer seemed harmless. Europe was desperate for spices. Pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves were not luxury items. They were necessities for preservation, medicine, and trade. The East controlled these resources, and whoever controlled the trade routes controlled wealth. Queen Elizabeth I granted the East India Company a royal charter. This document did something revolutionary. It gave a private corporation monopoly rights over trade in the East. For the first time, profit and national interest were fused into one entity. At first, the company's mission was simple: buy cheap, sell high, return profits to investors. Ships sailed from England to India and Southeast Asia. Trading posts were established. Local rulers were approached with gifts and contracts. But trade in the 17th century was not peaceful. Oceans were lawless. Rival empires competed violently for dominance. The company quickly learned a hard lesson. Commerce without protection was impossible. So it hired guards, then soldiers, then entire regiments. With every step, the line between business and state grew thinner. By the early 1700s, the East India Company was no longer asking permission. It was enforcing its interests. Taxes were collected, territories were administered, local politics were manipulated. The company justified everything with one argument: stability. They claimed order was necessary for trade. Trade was necessary for prosperity. And prosperity justified control. In 1757, the Battle of Plassey marked the true birth of the corporate empire. Through military force and political manipulation, the company seized control of Bengal. This victory unlocked unimaginable wealth. Bengal was one of the richest regions on Earth. Its revenues transformed the company overnight. From that moment on, the East India Company no longer needed the British state. The British state needed the company. The corporation now ruled millions of people, not as citizens, but as assets. At its height, the company commanded over 260,000 soldiers. It governed vast territories. It issued its own currency. It enforced its own laws. This was not capitalism as we know it today. This was corporate sovereignty. And with sovereignty came moral collapse. The company's executives were paid based on performance. Performance meant profit. Profit meant extraction. Land was taxed aggressively. Agriculture was reshaped to serve exports, not survival. Food shortages were ignored if balance sheets looked healthy. Famines swept through regions under company control. Millions died. The company recorded profits. Inside the organization, corruption flourished. Officials enriched themselves through bribes and manipulation. Oversight was weak. Distance made accountability impossible. London was far away, and suffering was even farther. Warnings were issued, reports were written, Parliament debated. But as long as money flowed into Britain, the system was tolerated. This tolerance created a fatal blind spot. The East India Company believed it was indispensable, too large to challenge, too profitable to restrain. That belief was its greatest mistake. By the early 19th century, the company had grown unstable. Its administration was bloated, its army was overstretched, its legitimacy was crumbling. Resentment spread among the population and even among the soldiers who served it. In 1857, the pressure finally erupted. Indian soldiers, trained and armed by the company itself, rebelled. What followed was one of the most significant uprisings in colonial history. The rebellion was violent, the response was brutal, but the damage was irreversible. For the first time, Britain was forced to confront the reality of what it had created. A private corporation had been allowed to rule like a state, and it had failed catastrophically. In 1858, the British Crown intervened directly. The East India Company was stripped of its governing powers. India was placed under direct royal control. The company's army was dissolved. Its authority vanished. Its purpose evaporated. What remained was a hollow institution, existing only on paper. In 1874, the East India Company was officially dissolved. No dramatic ending, no final battle, just silence. Yet its legacy is everywhere. Modern corporations operate across borders. They influence governments. They shape economies. The East India Company was the first to test the limits of this model, and it proved something fundamental. Power without accountability collapses. Scale without ethics destroys itself. Profit without restraint turns toxic. This was the first giant, and every corporate collapse since has echoed its story. The East India Company did not fall because it was weak. It fell because it believed it was untouchable. History has been proving that belief wrong ever since.